Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today, it is time to have a look at Swedish Rank 2, and give my opinions on the ground forces that it has, and also just some of the other vehicles that are about. And Rank 2 actually graces us with something kind of nice, the first proper lineup that Sweden has. Yes, one of the problems with tech trees such as the Swedish, the Italians, the Chinese have also kind of suffered from this, the French as well, even though they've just added a few vehicles to bolster Rank 2, is unfortunately there is a lot of times where you can't get a full lineup at a specific BR. This means that you're always at an inherent disadvantage if you're playing against whatever vehicles you are playing against, because they can have a full lineup. If you have a look at stuff like 2.3 or 2.7 for the Americans, you have the M5A1, the M16, and then something like the LVT or the other Stuarts, 2.7 for the Lee, the Grand, and then you can probably throw in the M4A3105. There is always a way of creating a 5-stack lineup, and luckily for Sweden, they also have one. It just happens at 3.0 instead of happening at other BRs. So after going through Rank 1 and generally being disappointed in it, the Rank 2 is pretty much the same story. There is a few shining lights here, but most of it is very disappointing. So we'll go from left to right, and so on and so forth. I will say my experiences with Rank 3 and so far Rank 4 have been better than Rank 1 and 2, so it does seem that it is increasing in usefulness, but at least right now, when I look at Rank 2, it ain't too good. So the STRV M41S2 comes in. This is a 2.3 Rank 2 vehicle. This is just a Panzer 38T with access to a 37mm. And I understand, yes, there are some other slight differences, but if we talk about general playstyle, there is no difference. The Panzer 38T for the Germans is 2.0, just to put this into perspective, right? And also, the only real difference is the fact that this gets access to the 37mm KWK-38, gets access to some APC with some HE filler, but it is able to pen 61mm. It's definitely not a meta vehicle, it's definitely not something that is used that much, and also its little brother, the Panzer 38TA, is 1.3. Now imagine taking a vehicle like that and putting it at 2.3. with access to the only real difference between it is the access to this APDS shell, which is a rank 4 upgrade once again. So we're struggling again with another vehicle which is only useful when it is fully upgraded. Because this machine at 2.3 gets exactly the same shell as the reserve vehicle for the Swedish, the APBC. And this APBC shell is not a good shell. And sometimes at lower tiers, when you're in reserves, maybe you can use this shell with a bit of HE filler. Sometimes it's good because even though you have less pen, it's able to penetrate, targets in front of you. But the problem is, sometimes definitely a lot of the time at 2.3, you can't penetrate a lot of targets. So you pretty much have to use this APDS shell, and by the time you spaded this vehicle, you probably already have, the APDS shell as one of your last upgrades. So you've had to struggle through spading it in order to become combat effective. This is a problem I've talked about a lot when it comes to many vehicles. You'll find it a lot with higher tier vehicles. The STRV 121 is an example. Why is it the fact that when it comes to this vehicle, the stock configuration of it, or even if we have a look, probably a better example is something like a Type 90, right? Why is the Type 90... here we go. So why is the Type 90 stock, or the Type 90B stock, seen as the same as a spaded vehicle? The fact that, as rank 4 upgrades, you get all of your mobility, plus artillery, plus a laser rangefinder, thermals as a rank 3, smoke grenades, JM33, all of these fundamentally change how this vehicle works and how it plays. Not just parts and not just FPE, all of these other ones also fundamentally change the vehicle. But for some reason, this vehicle stock, when it only has access to this round, which pens 480mm at best, compared to the JM33, which is APF SDS, and obviously, kinetic protection on a lot of high-tier vehicles is a lot worse than chemical protection. Why is it seen as the same vehicle? They are not. They are fundamentally not the same vehicle, and Sweden exemplifies this at low tier, because in order to be combat effective, you need these upgrades. You need stuff such as this APDS to actually pen stuff, even though the post-pen damage is still not very good. It's the only one you can actually use to pen it. You know what happens at 2-3 a lot? You face two sets of vehicles. You face 2.3 for the French, because obviously they added a bunch of vehicles for the French, so people are grinding it out right now. The M3A3 Stuart, the Crusader Mark II, the B1 Ter. All of these are so much better than your vehicle that it is ridiculous. Even the B1 Bis. Then, let's have a look at the M4A3 105. This thing is one little BR bracket, or, you know, BR value above this vehicle, right? The Swedish Strv M41S2. Let's have a look at its APC round. There's nowhere where you can pen it on the front. There's nothing you can do against the 105 Sherman. How about the side? Okay, we've got a little bit there. How much damage does it do? Nothing. Can't pen the side of the turret, so we can pen the side of the hull at 500 meters, but it does nothing, right? How about the booty? Okay, we can pen the booty, but once again, we are literally destroying a radiator by doing that. And maybe a little bit of an engine, but still not destroying it. See? We are oranging the engine at best. Do you know how infuriating it is when you are facing a vehicle like this? Something which you will face frequently, because it is in your BR bracket, with the STRV M41S2, because you can't do anything against it unless you have a rank 4 modification. This is the same against the B1 Bis, same against the B1 Ter, same against pretty much anything which has any armor around your BR. Therefore, this machine is just awful to play all the time. This thing should be dropped to 2.0. And that wouldn't fix its issues, but it would at least help. It is on the same... Like, there is no reason to play this over the STRV M40L. Absolutely no reason. It has slightly more armor, in the form of 7mm more armor. It has less gun depression. It has the same reload rate. It has worse turret rotation. There is no reason to play this over this. Just drop this to 2.0, and we can all go home. Now, talking another heaping pile of rubbish is the Lago I. Now, this actually has the same fundamental issue as all of these other Swedish vehicles that we've talked about with the 37s. It has decent mobility, which is good. Its gun depression is slightly worse than a lot of the Swedish vehicles, but -10 is still a very good standard. When it comes to its armor is absolutely abysmal. 34mm all over the place. It also has shot traps right here. It does at least have a crew of 5, which makes it a bit more survivable than a lot of the other Swedish vehicles, which only have 3 crew, so all you have to do is pen the turret, so at least that's nice. It's got a massive booty on it. Absolutely huge, because it has these 2 engines powering everything, but the main issue with the Lago is once again this damn 37 that is being used. This is at 2.7, right? This is at 2.7, and if you don't have the APDS shell, which is going to be the majority of the time when you're spading this vehicle, because you have to get through rank 1, rank 2, rank 3, and this will be your first, rank 4 modification. You only have 60mm worth of pen at 2.7. May I just remind you, at 3.7 is the first KV1. You can face this thing in a Lago I. You can't do anything against even a T-34 at 3.3, which is a very contested BR bracket, which you will face a lot because of Panzer IV F2s, because of the early Shermans, because of vehicles like this, right? Because of the T-34s. You cannot pen it from the front. There is like this little area that you may be able to pen, but guess what? You don't do any damage. You also can't really pen it from the side. Can you pen it from the back? No, you can't. So if you come up against a T-34 and you do not have the APDS shell, you can't pen this thing. Do you know how frustrating that is? And when you have the APDS shell, oh lord, look. we can actually go through. And we can do a bit of damage, but once again, the damage is just not there for it. Because you cannot soak a shot in the Lago when you're facing machines like this. That pretty much means that at the end of the day, you just end up being just cannon fodder to a lot of these vehicles. And once again, this is only once you get that APDS shell. If you don't have the APDS shell, this thing is fundamentally useless against the majority of vehicles that it faces. Remember that M4, remember that 105 Sherman that we talked about, which is very popular because it's an incredibly good vehicle at 2.7? This is what Sweden has to deal with it. You literally can't pen it without a rank 4 modification. This thing needs to go down in BR. It has no redeeming qualities apart from the fact that it has decent mobility when it's stock. Everything else about it is just not good. It was easily the worst grind that I've had to deal with, apart from maybe the IKV 103, but since the grind is not finished for that one yet, I'm going to reserve judgment. So I would drop the M41 to 2.0, I would drop this to 2.3, I may even say drop it to 2.0 as well, just because of how ridiculous the round is and the post-penetration damage is, which is absolutely terrible. Moving on to an actual vehicle here, which I enjoyed playing, but not for really the correct reasons, we have the LVT DJB M40. So this has a 40mm Vanken M36. This is just a Bofors, and it's as simple as that. And being a Bofors, it has access to ammunition, which pens up to 79mm, and you can get this in the form of APC. You run the stock shell on this thing, and as an actual AA, this machine is not good. It's too slow on its turret traverse. It's not fast enough to actually be able to deal with aircraft, and also the main issue is, once again, it's completely open. So, and there's only one dude in the front. So once the 3 guys on the gun actually get killed, then that pretty much means that, you know, you're done. You're not doing anything. You can see the turret rotation isn't the best, but you can keep up, at least with some vehicles. But the majority of the time in War Thunder, you're not going to be able to, you know, track vehicles, especially fighters and stuff like that, because they're going too quickly. And as I said, survivability-wise is absolutely terrible when it comes to this vehicle. Where this vehicle shines is not in the anti-aircraft role, but in the anti-tank. The reason for this is because it has more penetration than the 37mm apart from the APDS shell. So this vehicle, with its 40, has more pen than this, as long as you take away the APDS shell, and even with the APDS shell, it only has 20mm more pen, and this gun does way more damage than the APDS shell. So this is your first actual proper tank destroyer when it comes to rank 2. And it's not too bad, you know, and also it's got good gun elevation, so if you do want to try and shoot down planes, you can. I would just say not to. I would just say focus on going after other targets, such as, you know, other land-based vehicles, and just run around, you know, firing the 40, just trying to take out what you can, and just having a bit of fun with it, you know, just being able to just shoot vehicles. My general record in this machine is actually pretty fun and pretty good, because all I do, or when I played it, is I used it as a second spawn, and I just ran around and just battered people with it. And because it has a decent amount of speed and it also has some wonky armor on the front in the form of the shield plates, you can pretty much just use the engine power, which is very good on this machine, may I just say, and just run around and just batter vehicles with it. You can also penetrate vehicles such as T-34s in the front. It's not exactly easy to do, but, you know, it is possible to do. So even if you get up-tiered in this machine, you can take out the gunner through the turret on that little flat part, you can get around the side, or you can take out the gun and just batter it. One interesting thing also about this vehicle is that it has access to these little wheels on the front, but the little wheels, as you can see down there, don't actually move, which kind of sucks. It would have been nice if they had a bit of an animation, but unfortunately they don't. But yeah, this is more effective than the first 2 medium tanks that we've talked about, because of the fact it can actually pen stuff. It actually has stopping power, it actually has post-pen effect, it actually can do damage, And also, if you want to, you can always just, you know, try and take out planes as well, since it is an actual AA. Survivability is terrible on it though, so that's why it's never going to be crazy good, but it's going to be okay. The first actual tank destroyer we have at rank 2 is this 2.0 SAV M43, has good gun depression, has 50mm of armor on the front, which isn't actually too bad for a tank destroyer. Problem is, you mainly face Stuarts and 105s, that'll tear you apart. It also has a crew of 4, and all of the 4 crew are really close together, meaning that you'll get one-shot quite a lot. And also, one of the annoying things when it comes to the vehicle is its reload isn't great, and since the driver and the loader are in a line, if anything is firing AP at you, they're both going to die really quickly. Then you have the 160 horsepower engine. Once again, as I've said with the Swedish vehicles, they have great power to weight ratio, at least it feels like they do. You know, they have good acceleration and good speed, even when they're not spaded, which is really nice. You know, there's no secondary to that. But where does this thing fall apart? Well, it has that 75mm can M02 that we talked about at 4.7, which is 1.7, which is not bad. But once you up tier it, you realize that at 2.0, you open up a massive bracket of vehicles which can't get penned. Right, and with only 69mm worth of pen on this machine, it's not exactly the easiest to be able to deal with. And if you have a look at a lot of the meta vehicles around 2.0, yeah, you'll be able to deal with Stuarts, yeah, you'll be able to deal with some of the lighter stuff like Crusaders and things like that. But if you have a look at machines such as this baby, one of the problems you're going to run into if you use the more high penetrating shell is you won't be able to pen it. So you might be able to pen here, but it's highly unlikely. You can't pen here. The only place you can pen is the turret from the front on the B1 Biz. And this is why people really like playing the B1 Biz, because of the fact that it's really hard to pen from the front. You can pen from the side, but do you see another problem? Post-penetration damage. Lacking massively with this vehicle, and this once again is something that the Swedish have a lot of. If you destroy one module in this machine, it seems like you are only destroying one module, and that is it. Nothing else is allowed to die. Look at that. The fuel tank doesn't even die, and it stops the round. What is this post-pen damage? And it doesn't have a good enough reload rate to justify having this bad of a damage. The amount of times I've shot a vehicle with this machine and it hasn't died, or it's done not enough damage and they've just looked at me and annihilated me, is incredibly depressing. And it's very similar to the Semaventes. So one of the biggest criticisms I had of the Italian tree when I was spading through it was this line of vehicles. And luckily nowadays, a lot of these vehicles have been dropped in BR. Right? A lot of these vehicles, apart from this M43, a lot of these started at higher BRs and they have been lowered over time. And that's because they are really not very good vehicles. They are a tank destroyer which cannot destroy tanks, because of the fact that their shells are just not good enough, or if they pen enough, they don't do enough post-pen damage. This is exactly the same story for the SAV M43 1944, and that is a serious issue on its part. It's not a good vehicle, but at least it's serviceable when it comes to a tank destroyer. It's also a 2.0, so you can run it with the M40L, so at least it creates a slightly, small lineup. Moving on to slightly better days, so the Strv M42EH. This is a 3.0 tank, medium tank, and it has all the bells and whistles of a medium tank, so artillery and all that good stuff, but it swaps out the 37 that we've seen before for the 75 can M41. Now the Strv M42EH, if I look at my statistics that I have for it, which are down here, I'm actually positive in it. Negative win rate, but positive. 19 kills and then 13 deaths. And I had a much better experience in this than I did with the 37mm machines. But I think it might be a little bit jaded. So I don't think this is a good vehicle at 3.0. It has the same issues that a lot of other vehicles have, but at least with that extra penetration from the 75mm, it is able to pen stuff such as T-34s, such as Panzer IVs. It just can't really deal with Shermans that well, and it gets absolutely annihilated by the majority of those machines if they shoot back, because it only has 55mm of armor. It also only has a crew of 4, and guess what? 3 of them are in the turret. So once they pop your turret, you're dead. It's as simple as that. Has good engine power behind it though, which is nice once again, and the gun depression is also really nice. But I think the reason why I wear rose-tinted glasses when I think about this machine and think about the positive experiences I had in this is because I had such a bad experience in these 37mm machines that this is looking out on top as kind of the shining diamond on top of the mound of mud. And even though it's not a good machine, it at least was a nice change compared to all of these other ones, which in my opinion are below average. I don't think this thing should have its BR changed. I think it's fine where it is at 3.0, and the only place it does struggle a lot in is turret traverse, which sucks, but you can just turn the whole vehicle if you want to, since it's got decent engine power. It's an average vehicle, which is, after dealing with a lot of below average vehicles, is really nice. The SAV M43 1946, this is another one which suffers from the oh, I don't have the nice round, so I'm stuck with 67mm of pen at 3.0, and then you wonder why people get annoyed, but at least it's a rank 2 modification for the heat round and not a rank 3 or 4. So this has 240mm worth of pen. Now, the gun is the 105 Can M44. This fires exactly the same ammo as the 6.0 vehicle. This one right here. I have no idea why this thing is at 6.0, but we'll get into that when we talk about rank 4. So when it comes to the SAV M43 1946, when it gets this heat round, it does actually become a vehicle. It is able to actually penetrate a lot of stuff. You know, the things that you were struggling with before, the 105 Sherman, the B1 BIS, the B1 TUR, they actually become not as good as before, because you are actually able to stop the, you are actually able to penetrate them from the front, so they can't just look at you, like dodos, and just sit there and just soak everything that you have, which is really nice. It's an actual positive change, and it gives you this nice sense of what's going on. And if you hit it with the heat shell like this, you can just batter them, and you can do a decent amount of damage with it, which is lovely. You can shoot them wherever you feel like, and also as long as they haven't changed it, one of the nice things as well on this vehicle, which is also a trend for a lot of the tank destroyers, because a lot of them are just post-war tank destroyers, they have really nice optics. So you do have to, because they have nice optics though, yeah, it's pretty good optics. So because they have nice optics, you do have to line up shots properly and everything like that, but it's not too hard to do. But yeah, that's a trend through all of them, and it is really nice to see. So the main issues though, when you have these larger tank destroyers, they have slow reload rates. They don't have turrets, so actually getting gun on target can be annoying as hell. If you miss that first shot, you're in a lot of trouble, and also they can't defend themselves against stuff such as aircraft and also stuff such as artillery. So once the enemy works out where you are, and if one enemy member wants to deal with you very effectively, it's not hard to do so. You artillery this thing, it doesn't have any armor on the top, 13mm at most, and on the sides. So if an artillery piece even lands near you, you die in this machine, and it's really, really annoying. But, and also if someone gets in an aircraft, they can just machine gun you to death through the top here, which is really easy to do. It's also a 4-man crew once again in the front, so survivability is pretty low, but it's fine, it's a tank destroyer. But at least I had a better experience in this than a lot of the other Swedish vehicles in rank 1 and 2. At least it has a gimmick, and the gimmick is the heat shell, and it does a decent amount of damage to vehicles that you face. There'll be a lot of times where it doesn't come off, or you shoot slightly wrong, and you don't do any damage to machines, but you're going to expect that when it comes to a lot of these vehicles. You've just got to make sure to line your shots up well. So at least at the end of rank 2, there are 2 machines which are serviceable compared to the rest, but this whole line, apart from this, which is a pretty good tank destroyer, but if we just look at it as an AA, this whole line is trash. It's really not good. The SAV 20-1248 though, obviously the tank destroyer of the bunch and also the CBT premium, this is a really good machine. It has a autoloader which has access to 6 pieces. You can fire them off in very rapid succession, 1 second between them. And if you, one of the problems with a lot of tank destroyers is if you cock up the range that you have to fire at a machine, then you have to like normally wait about 10 seconds to fire another one. This means that the machine that you shot at can reposition, so on and so forth. The SAV, if you cock up a distant shot, you can fire within a second. So it's very hard for an enemy to be able to get away from you once you have them in your sights. It also once again has some pretty good optics, so you know, since we screwed up that shot, we can just lower a little bit, and then that shot over there, you see we fired over, so now we just set up the proper shot, and you can see how many shots we can pump into a machine as quickly as possible. It's just kind of ridiculous. Now obviously when you run out of your first stage ammo stowage, that's a bit of a problem. But the nice thing about the SAV is that it's really, really fast. So you can just go backwards or you can go forwards, and you can just do whatever you want and reposition. And before you get, you know, the rounds back. It also has access to smoke. It has access to everything. Isn't it really sad that the best machine at rank 2 is the actual premium CBT? Why does it always have to be like this? It doesn't have any armor though, but it does have a round that pens more, because it has this 120mm, than pretty much everything here apart from the heat shell on this. And it's a 3.7. This machine is good. It doesn't do so well after the first 5 or 10 minutes of a battle if you haven't dominated the enemy team though, because once a person gets into a plane, well, they can just machine gun you from the top and you lose 2 crew and you only have 3, so you die. Simple as. So yeah, the best machine at rank 2 is the premium, not a surprise, followed by the STRV M42 and then the SAV M43, the rest not so good. But at least you can run stuff like the J21, which is a really fun plane to fly, the J22, the J20, and also the B18 with a lot of these lineups, which is really fun. So make sure to do that, because the planes of Sweden are great to fly. You know, they don't really have a lot of downsides at this tier, apart from they don't turn as well as Spitfires, but that's completely fine. So overall, if we're talking about like BR changes and what I would do, I'd lower this to 2.0, I'd lower this to 2.3, this can stay where it is, this is fine where it is, maybe you lower it to 1.7, maybe, but I think it's okay at 2.0, this is fine at 3.0, and I would actually put this at 2.7, so yeah. As you can see, nothing is going up, everything is either going down or staying the same. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I just want to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Chris Giltnane, Daniel Stanton, Jay Wilt, John Ryman, Martinez, Super Cacti, Trigger Hippie, Eugens Terry, and also Elove Goat and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.